I swung open the door with a forceful motion, as if declaring, "I'm here, back in my stronghold, where every corner falls under my watch." Shrugging off my jacket, I tossed it onto a chair and let my keys land on the side table with a clink. The apartment was swallowed in a heavy silence, thick like a November fog. But instead of comfort, it brought an unsettling emptiness, like an invisible void simmered somewhere in the background, one that neither the TV nor the half-drunk beer that had been sitting out for days could fill. My wife, my beloved, was off enjoying a much-deserved break at a health resort. Frankly, I hadn't expected it to bother me. We've drifted for so long now, each of us in our own worlds. She has hers, with tea rituals and frequent fashionable getaways to the spa. I have mine, with sports matches, nights out with friends, and the unending noise of city life. We become experts at moving in parallel, careful not to cross each other's paths. So why did her absence leave this strange unease behind? Maybe it was the look she gave me before leaving, tired, almost imperceptible, but carrying a tinge of something unspoken, maybe a quiet disappointment, as if she'd hoped for something from me beyond a casual, have a good time. But I brushed it off, as I always do, thinking it would pass as quickly as these things usually do. By the third day of my bachelor retreat, just as I was starting to enjoy the newfound solitude, something happened. I just turned on the TV, ready to settle into a match, when the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, random digits glowing on the screen with no meaning or memory attached. Yet a strange, dark sensation stirred in my chest, a gut feeling telling me that this call would bring anything but good news. "Hello, Aiden," a man's voice sounded, smooth and self-assured, with just a hint of mockery. "It's Henry. Remember me, maybe." For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Henry. That Henry. Her ex, the one before me. Layla had mentioned him once, offhandedly, painting him as a faint memory from her past. No warmth, no nostalgia. People have pasts, right? But hearing his voice now, I was rooted to the spot. "Oh, hi," I muttered, a strange tension creeping into my mind. "How's your friend? I thought you might want to know what your dear other half has been up to." He continued, his tone smooth but laced with malice. "I've got a few photos here. Family album material, you know." I don't even know what gripped me in that instant, but the silence that followed became deafening. I could hear my own breath, each inhale sounding like a drumbeat echoing in my head. He went on, rambling about money, figures, something about transactions. His words blurred, just a background noise to the only thing I could think about, those photos he mentioned. Somehow, I knew they'd be nothing good. The same thought kept running through my mind. She betrayed me. My chest felt hollow, and my mind spiraled with questions. When did things fall apart? Why did we become so distant that she'd drift back to her past? This was a man she'd seemed to have left behind, a closed chapter. But then the photos arrived, and seeing them finally shattered whatever was left between us. Staring at the screen, I felt a chill, as if I were plunging into freezing water. There she was with him, eyes sparkling, her smile, the smile, once meant only for me. She was holding him, leaning in, whispering in his ear. I wanted to look away, but my hand wouldn't release the phone. It was as if my fingers were glued to it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. What if I'd gone with her? What if I'd made more of an effort? Maybe things wouldn't have come to this. Yet, deep down, I knew it was useless to wonder. What was done, and no amount of regret could change it. But somewhere within, I felt a bitter realization. Maybe, just maybe, some of this was my fault too. When Layla returned, I doubted I'd be able to hold back even a single sharp word. The moment she walked into the apartment, I positioned myself in front of her, arms crossed, striving to keep my composure. Yet inside, I felt like a blaze had erupted. She seemed tense as well. It was obvious she sensed exactly what I was about to ask. The silence between us thickened, heavy and stifling. "Is there something you want to tell me?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, lacking the usual confidence. In my mind, I could see those images again, her face close to another man's, her hand on his shoulder. And before I knew it, the words just spilled out, hard and sharp as broken glass. She listened, sometimes offering weak explanations, occasionally trying to defend herself, but I'd already shut myself off to anything she had to say. She kept insisting it was all a misunderstanding, that she'd been pushed into it, that it hadn't been her choice. I stood there, feeling a layer of ice forming within me, growing thicker with each passing second. "Do you honestly expect me to believe that?" I asked, my voice laced with cold sarcasm as I looked her square in the eye. "You saw those photos, Layla. This isn't some innocent mistake. It's betrayal." Her words seemed hollow, like faint whispers lost in the air. She repeated that she didn't want any of this, but my own words tore through the room like a fierce wind, scattering everything in their path. Finally, she confessed she'd run into Henry by chance, and that old feelings had ignited once more. There was something almost resigned in her admission, something that filled me with a strange, quiet sadness. When I suggested driving her to her parents, she didn't resist, not even a little. We rode in silence, as if there was nothing left between us. She stared out the window, while I focused on the road, feeling like I was leaving behind fragments of a shared past. The quiet in the car was so dense that it felt as though time itself had stalled, unwilling to move forward. When we arrived, I hugged her goodbye, not meeting her gaze, a gesture more of habit than affection, as if some other part of me, the one that had believed in us and in the chance of a future together, was the one truly bidding farewell. She stayed with her parents, and I returned to an apartment that now felt hollow foreign. Everything seemed touched by an unsettling emptiness. There was no scent of her herbal teas, no trace of her presence, no warmth of her voice. Just me, alone with my thoughts, and the memories that would now linger only in the past. And while there was silence in that empty space, I began, perhaps for the first time, to grasp something. Love isn't just about feelings. It's about the compromises I had never been willing to make.